Welcome back to the Watchman, a study on the book of Ruth. So far we've learned from Ruth chapter 1, 1a, that in the days when the judges governed that there was a famine in the land, and a certain man of Bethlehem in Judah and his family went to the land of Moab, which we know that in Moab they had grotesque, lewd, abominable worship towards other little gods, everything that the Israelites should shun. But we also know that this period didn't last, because the chapter 1 is ruined, and we know that Naomi's husband died, Elimelech. And then also Mahlon and Chilion, her two sons, died after they were married to two Moab women. And Orpah, the stubborn one, went back. Ruth, the friendly one, stayed. And we have that great declaration in Ruth chapter 1, verses 16. Promise of Ruth to her mother-in-law that she will always be with her. Go wherever she goes and worship the same God as her. Then we know that it went back into the barley harvest season. So we know that the feasts were getting ready to be taken care of. So they were out in the fields, gleaning the fields. And we know in chapter 2, a story of resolve, where it just so happened, right, that Ruth was in Boaz's field, gleaning the field. Boaz found favor for some reason in her. And Boaz's name is swiftness, means swiftness. So we see how he found favor with Ruth from maybe it was because he was attracted because of her dedication, her discipline, her diligence. Maybe she was young, beautiful, but she was loyal, because I'm pretty sure the people knew her story and how and why she followed her mother-in-law back, a foreigner in this land, worshiping a God that her people didn't necessarily worship. We saw in verse 12 the key phrase, under whose wings you have come to seek refuge, in the idea of God's protection and training in this particular situation, where Ruth understood that God would take care of her. And again, Boaz found favor. She ended up getting 4 times as much in her harvesting. He provided food for her, vinegar to help on those extra hot days. And then at the end of chapter 2, we see them talking about who's this man that showed you favor, and it's revealed that it's Boaz, and we find out that it's a closest relative or a kinsman redeemer. And that's where we're going to pick up now in Ruth chapter 3, verse 1. Then Naomi, her mother-in-law, said to her, "My daughter, shall I not seek security for you, that it may be well with you?" Now, it's kind of interesting here, because cultural protocol forbid Naomi to intervene with Boaz about arranging marriage and everything. So she helped out with some boldly, but in an unconventional way. All right. So we see down in verse 4 that we have, "It shall be when he lies down that you shall notice the place where he lies, and you shall go and uncover his feet and lie down." Now, Naomi basically looked for a way for Ruth to be taken care of, but in Ruth being taken care of, it also meant that Naomi would be taken care of. So this was very important culturally for this sort of relationship to work out, because a kinsman redeemer was responsible for protecting the interests of needy members, as found in Deuteronomy chapter 25, verses 5 through 10, Leviticus 25, verses 25 to 28, Leviticus 25, verses 47 to 49, and Numbers 35, verses 19 to 21. In those verses, it covers that a kinsman redeemer has to be an heir for his brother if he passes, redeem his brother's land, redeem the slave relatives, and avenge numbered relatives, be the guardian of the family's honor. So this kinsman redeemer coming in to their life is an awakened home and a turning point in Ruth. So this is why Naomi is telling Ruth to go find where he lays down, where he lives, where he sleeps, uncover his feet and lie down. Yes, it's sort of weird, but it's cultural because there's certain customs that were a demonstration of showing another person that they wanted to marry them. So because if we jump down to verse 9 then, all right, after this whole thing happened where she does go, it says, he said, "Who are you?" And she answered, "I am Ruth, your maid. So spread your covering over your maid, for you are a close relative." Now, this demonstration here of covering your maid is basically a willingness. She's asking him to marry her. And Boaz, moral integrity, never in doubt, and appeal to Boaz's obligation as the kinsman redeemer, we see. Then he said, in verse 10, then he said, "May you be blessed of the Lord, my daughter. You have shown your last kindness to be better than the first, by not going after young men, whether poor or rich." Continuing, "Now, my daughter, do not fear. I will do for you whatever you ask, for all my people in this city know that you are a woman of excellence." Before we get into that woman of excellence here, I want to talk about this whole spread your covering over your maid, because this is symbolic of a marriage relationship, as I said, that can also be found in Ezekiel chapter 16, verse 8. All right. Wings and corners both signify protection, as we saw in chapter 2, verse 12, "Under whose wings you have come to seek refuge." And now we have, "So spread your covering over your maid." Both of these phrases is protection. The first was from the Lord, and now this one is from Boaz. So Ruth approached Boaz because of the kindness and protection. However, he would not bypass the directives of the law, because he says in verse 12, "Now it is true, I'm a close relative. However, there's a relative closer than I." So there's another relative that is actually first in line to be kinsman redeemer. So in order to overcome that, right, he has to make things right. And again, his name means swiftness, so he doesn't just sit idle. He reacts, and he tells her, as the Lord lives, right, that he is going to try and make this right. He's going to go and find out if that nearer kinsman redeemer will be willing to fulfill his law as the kinsman redeemer. And if not, then Boaz can jump in and do so. Now, there's a couple things here that I want to just a little bit more in depth. Ruth chapter 3, verse 6, it says, "So she went down to the threshing floor." The threshing floor is significant in Scripture because it's a place of separation and revelation. It's a place where the harvest was prepared by separating the grain from the useless straw, exposing and collecting the most valuable part of the crop. It is important because once the harvest is gathered, the practice of threshing begins with intentional destruction. This technique typically involved crushing the crop under the weight of a sledge or a grinding wheel attached to heavy hooves of oxen. Next, the mixture was tossed into the air, allowing the wind to separate the straw from the seed. This process carried the lighter part, the straw, away and allowed the seed to fall and collect to the ground. The threshing process is a beautiful picture of worship and a metaphor for sanctification. The threshing floor, as a place of worship, is where God's provision for us is on earth. Our responsibility is to cooperate with the process and in turn honor Him with the bounty of what is revealed. This process of refinement is much like our lives. Our personal level, we too plant seeds and tend to our own crops in hopes of bountiful harvest. We do this in all our relationships, our careers, our personal aspirations, our faith. However, our best efforts often get choked out by the weeds of pride, the tears of selfishness, and the chaff of lost hope. Now, the cultural protocol here was for her to do this so that go to the threshing floor where this would take place, where she could see God working in Ruth's life. She could see him protecting her. And so she uncovered his feet, laid down next to him on the threshing floor where this separation would occur. And then he awakes and she asks him, spread your covering over me, basically protect me as the Lord protects me, and just help me. So he finishes by giving Ruth a commitment of faith and an oath, a promise that the matter will be resolved one way or another, whether the near kinsman redeemer will accept his responsibility or pass it over, allowing Boaz. After all, Ruth chapter 3, verse 11, it says, all the people of my town know that you are a woman of noble character, but this translation, a woman of excellence. Both meaning that they knew what she was doing in chapters 1 and 2. Her story of coming home with her mother-in-law was not hidden, and they knew that she was a woman of excellence. So this is very, very significant. And again, right here, Boaz is going above and beyond showing favor to Ruth by the law's requirements that are found back in Deuteronomy and Leviticus and Numbers. So again, he's just being swift, just like his name says. The last thing I want to say can be found in verse 18. Then she said, this is Naomi, after she went back, Ruth went back to talk to her mother-in-law about everything that happened. Verse 18, Naomi's telling Ruth, wait, my daughter, until you know how the matter turns out, for the man will not rest until he has settled it today. Naomi is beside herself. That hope that was awakened in chapter 2 of a closer relative and how he had already found favor. He's not going to let this thing die. He is swift, a commitment by oath. He's a man of his word. He has not strayed from it. And this Boaz is a man's man. He is authentic. He is genuine. And here, Naomi is telling Ruth, be patient. Wait. Wait on the Lord. The Lord is protecting you, guiding you, training you for this moment. So this is an exciting chapter, but it even gets better in chapter 4 as we will see how we have gone from ruin in chapter 1 to resolve in chapter 2 to a redemption in chapter 3 to a reward in chapter 4. So until then, take care, God bless, and be strong.